Now, they say you should never discuss politics on a date, and arguably that has never been more true, as a new poll revealed that younger men and women are increasingly at odds with each other. So men aged between 18 and 29 are more likely to hold conservative views and beliefs that feminism has gone too far. That's according to research by the Economist newspaper. Meanwhile, younger women are more likely to be liberal. But can love conquer that political divide? Well, we'll start with Marina, since I think we know where you're going to go on this one.
Okay. So I think maybe 10 years ago, you could have been in a relationship where maybe one of you was a conservative and the other one was, say, Labour or whatever. Now, if I found myself single and I found myself on the dating apps, if there could be the most handsome man, think like Henry Cavill type handsome. But if I saw in his description that he was conservative, I'm swiping left without a second thought.
What if you got to know him, really liked him, very funny, you got on very well, and then you found out that he voted Conservative?
My ovaries would turn to dust. I just cannot find anyone attractive who, in this day and age, can support the Conservative Party. Because that, to me, says you're pro-cruel policies, you're pro-corruption,
so
you're pro-racism, you're pro-deporting asylum seekers.
That's interesting.
That ain't attractive, Storm.
You see it as having different morals to you.
Gross. I think it's a moral question now. It's not about low taxation, it's about morality now.
James?
You see, this shows that you just want to live in an echo chamber, that you don't want to be challenged on your views, you don't want to think about what you're saying. And in fact, what you're saying is actually probably quite rude to a lot of people who have a different ideology to you. And it doesn't mean that, you know, this whole Conservative Party is an arty party. I think anybody who voted for the Tory party is extremely cross with the way that they've mismanaged...
James, listen to what I said. Now. Today.
Yes.
People who today still, given the Conservatives and everything they've done, would say they are conservative. That, to me, is
but I think
no-no.
Yeah, but I think that there are a lot of people who would vote Conservative in the way that there are lots of people who vote Labour or Liberal or whatever, and they don't necessarily agree with the leadership or the direction of the travel of the party or whatever it is, but that's kind of their mindset. All I would say is that I think that you can live very adequately in a relationship where the views are opposite. They certainly are in our household. We tend not to discuss these things too much, but I find it an education. I think it's very helpful to have those sorts of conversations because I think it shows that you live in an adult world in which you can agree to disagree. You can learn from the other person.
No, James, I couldn't love someone who, for example, was pro the Rwanda policy. How can I love someone who's cruel in their heart?
Well, you see, the thing is, I mean, I understand the Rwanda policy. I happen to think it's a colossal throwing out of money because it just doesn't achieve. But do I agree with strong borders? Yes, please. But we got
strong borders is different to Rwanda.
Yeah, but Rwanda, I think, is an utter throwing out of money. That's a bad example because we probably agree that I don't know why the government is doing it. But
let's take Rwanda because there are plenty of people that would support the Rwanda plan, but not to actually have flights take off, but as a deterrent to stop people making that treacherous journey. So they're not supporting Rwanda for a cruel reason. They would be supporting Rwanda because they don't want people to die doing that crossing. They want to stop the traffickers being able to sell those seats.
Call me a cynic, but I think the number of people that just support Rwanda as a deterrent to stop the people dying in the Channel is very, very little.
OK, but you agree that there could be people that feel that way, in which case that's not cruel then?
Sure, but I think we're talking about edge cases here. Let's be honest, that policy was designed to appeal to a certain demographic. OK, but what about James's point that actually you may not agree with the government party that's sitting at the moment and you may think they have made an absolute colossal disaster, but actually you have conservative beliefs and the ethos around the Conservative Party and you're financially more conservative. What about if that was your view? So maybe this election you're not going to vote Conservative, but you would potentially vote for them in the future? No, I'm sorry, it's just a red flag for me. If you are fiscally conservative, what's stopping you voting for Labour? Labour have moved, like we said in the ad break, Labour have moved so far to the centre, over to the right.
They might do, but
you're fiscally conservative.
Are you telling me?
Might as well vote Labour.
Yeah, but there might be some people who say, look, I would vote Labour, but for whatever reason, they might send their children to fee-paying schools, and Labour's going to increase because they want to pursue an ideological policy. And they might say, I don't like it. Or there might be some Jewish people out there who still don't think that Labour have entirely got rid of their anti-Semitic views, because there are plenty of people within Labour who have some pretty horrid views. So I think to have this weird like anybody who's a Conservative is a sort of vile person, and anybody who's Labour is like wonderfully.
I don't think that, and I think anyone that thinks Labour is my team is wrong. Labour is not my team. Like, I'm just supporting them because they have got the best chance of getting the Tories out. But I just think to be proudly Conservative, to put it on your bio on a Tinder or whatever you're on,
I don't think you should. But it would be a red flag to me, I think, to put any kind of politics on there, because it shows that you can't see beyond, the red blinkers. I mean, in our house, if I was
on a dating app, my political stance would be get the Tories out.
Yeah, but you see, then that would be a lot of, swipe left or right, whatever.
And it would save me a lot of time.
Yeah, that's fine. But I think that's really weird that you would put that.
James, I have to ask, in your relationship, you said that there are a lot of differences, and you.
Let's start with Brexit.
Politics. Okay, for that.
One voted in, one voted out.
I don't need
new tries.
Specificities, but does it cause arguments, like proper arguments?
On occasion, there'll be some friction as we'll discuss various things, but not really, because I think, as far as I'm concerned, I like to think that I'm a reasonably tolerant and open-minded person. I recognise that different people have different views, and I recognise that they can be wrong all they like. But it doesn't necessarily. But it does, just because I think something doesn't, again, necessarily make it right. I may think it's right, but my job. I mean, I think people sometimes confuse. They say, James, you've been on a radio doing speech-based shows for 20 years. You have these rabid views. It's like, no. I just try and put my views forward to help you make your mind up. It's nothing to do with me, what you think, whether I agree or disagree. You can be right or wrong, or, we can both be right or both be wrong, frankly. It's just trying to encourage people to think about things. If I can make somebody think about whatever view they have, and then we have these conversations where we'll have a conversation, you'll learn a little bit, and it's just like, no, I still think what I think, you can think what you think, and we can both be right or both be wrong.
Sound reasonable, Marina?
I mean, you could say that. Of course, we all do that, but it's our view. We are influencing, whether we like it or not. People listen, and there is a degree of influence.
I think you made a really interesting point, because you think that your political views and your moral views are infused. You cannot separate them, particularly when it comes to the Conservative Party. Lots of messages online on this, actually. Vicky on Facebook says, it's not an absolute deal breaker. I am very central, so no one ever agrees with me anyway. David on Facebook says, if only slightly different, then yes. If extremely different and the polar opposite to me, then no. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's all on a spectrum, and somewhere in the middle is okay, but to the extremes is not great. Stacey on Facebook says, my husband started off very much a centre guy, but now he's a full socialist like me. I can't imagine ever being attracted to a Tory, and the thought alone makes me shudder. Is that Stacey or is that Marina? I can't work it out.